One, right before we start, could I please get a signed hat?
Depends.
Do you charge cheddar around here? You charge?
No, I've been throwing out hats for free.
Damn, I just gotta jump next time, I guess. All right, well, I feel pretty American today. We're down to our roots, standing up for what we believe in. I think that's powerful. I'm pretty sure a branch of that is why you're here. I just had one question for you real quick. Probably go into two. Or three, or four, or five, whatever. So, all right. I've heard you say before that you think diversity is a weakness. I just want to ask you why you think diversity is a weakness.
Well, think about it. Unity is a strength. Diversity is not. If you're trying to create a team, for example, if you guys want to win the SEC again, of which I am pulling for Texas A&M to win an SEC championship again, and every single player is getting different call signs, that is definitionally different, and unity is what creates a good football team. We're brought together by what brings us together, not what is different. And so differences are actually not a strength when you're trying to create a team, a country, a military, a football team, a unit, a corporation, or so on and so forth.
Okay, well, glad we're not a football team. I'm glad we're a country. So
It's a metaphor, right?
okay, so basically, like, just to make sure I'm getting this, if we're all united as one thing,
It's called
not diverse.
E pluribus unum. So it's the Latin phrase, out of many, one.
Okay.
So the diversity is our strength is at odds with what's on every one of your dollar bills. On your dollar bill is a phrase, E pluribus unum, which means it doesn't matter your skin color, your background. Our founders did not say diversity is our strength. They said we are all humanity and that is our strength, which is fundamentally different than the phrase diversity is our strength.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought up the founding fathers then, because they weren't all the same person. There was so many people that made up
Yeah, there
America.
were many of them, you're right.
Okay, yeah, but there were so many people that made up America. There were so many tribes that were here before us, and they're the whole reason why we even won the American Revolution. So in that sense, diversity would be a strength. In World War II, we used the Navajo
Hold on, we
language.
won the revolution because of the French, not because of the Native Americans.
And they're not
okay?
American, so that's still diverse. That still goes to
Yeah,
my
well, they were
point.
they were European, of which was our ancestry. But okay, what's the point? Fair enough. I'm not.
My point is that I believe that your statement that diversity is a weakness is just simply not
Okay,
true.
so let's put it on you. Show me an institution, a company, a sports organization that aims to get more diverse for diversity's sake and becomes more excellent. Show me one example.
I'll go even better than that. I'll show you a country that did that. During World War II, we used the Navajo language to counteract German forces. Without their language and the diversity in this country, we wouldn't be able to do any of that.
Okay, they were Americans
Exactly.
and American soldiers. And in fact, we looked at them as equal human beings and we're able to use a different language to our advantage. In fact, what we were fighting for was the promise of E pluribus unum. We were fighting up against Japanese totalitarianism and Nazi totalitarianism. And I will go even step further. At every organization that tries to make diversity a priority, whether it be Harvard that ignored the Students for Fair Admission course, you lower excellence and you elevate diversity, which lowers the flourishing and the capacity for any organization, company, or group of people to be the best versions of themselves.
So you're very anti-DEI, I suppose.
Oh yes, very much so. I mean, like, for example, do you think the NBA should be half Asian?
I don't care. If they're better than any of the players that come
If
out
they're
of our
better,
combine,
exactly. Excellence matters more than skin color. We agree. Yes, better.
don't agree.
Better, not skin color. That's what we are pro-merit, not pro-DEI. That's the point.
If you believe that is true, then you would support DEI, because DEI is what defends other people that are foreign.
What are you talking about? No.
DEI is literally
So-
pro-diversity. We need these protections to be able to protect
Oh, really?
people that are different
So
from
how
us.
is it that the NBA is 75% black? It's because they're better at basketball than white people generally are. It's not because
That's because of DEI.
No, oh really? What DEI? No, seriously. What DEI program or policy does the NBA have? Do they have a stated goal saying we're only going to hire black people? No, the NBA owners say we want the best basketball players, and they end up with a 75% black league. The NFL, it's a cutthroat business. They want the best possible football players. They end up with 50% of the NFL being a black league. We want the best. We want better. We don't care about the color of your skin. We want merit and we want excellence in this country.
If it wasn't for DEI, we wouldn't be giving other people a chance that aren't American or white. That's the whole point of DEI.
No, it's
is
not.
To give
In fact,
other people a
DEI
chance.
is at odds with the 14th Amendment. Explain to me. The 14th Amendment says You cannot discriminate based on color, based on race. Actually, it's even more. That's the Civil Rights Act. Going back to the 14th Amendment says, literally at its core, that we have a human equality because we're all human beings. That DEI says, actually, we understand that, but we're going to give more preferences to this skin color over that skin color because diversity is our strength. Explain to me how that works.
It works because there was so many years of just constant turmoil between people that weren't our skin color. So you need to instill extra protections.
Oh, so you need to discriminate against white people now? That's what it is.
How am I discriminating against white people?
Let me give you an example. At the Harvard admission, so the Students for Fair Admissions, you're familiar with that Supreme Court case? It's the highest profile Supreme Court case that comes around DEI and college admissions. Are you aware of that?
Go ahead.
You should educate yourself on it. We
didn't
found
say
out that Asians they got a 300-point deduction on standardized tests versus black students. White people got a 100-point deduction on entrance tests in Harvard University versus black students. This is the Students for Fair Admission Supreme Court case that all of you guys should look up. In fact, in practice, we saw it was much easier to get into Harvard as a black student, regardless if your test scores were lower than a white student, even if your test scores were higher. That is active discrimination against Asian and white people and against everything that we as Americans stand for and that we believe in. That is racism at its core.
I agree that it is racism.
Oh, DEI is racism. Can we agree?
I didn't say DEI was racism.
No, I just said that's racism.
You described something that happened with Harvard admissions.
No, in hundreds of schools.
Okay, but you brought up Harvard.
Because that is the test case. But we saw the documents from hundreds of schools.
I'm just going to go off of what you said. You said Harvard. You said it was racism. I said I agreed. When Harvard went to court, did they say that DEI allowed them to do that and they only did that because of DEI?
They did it because of affirmative action, which is a outgrowth of DEI. They literally said this was because of our stated affirmative action policies. So affirmative action and DEI are one and the same. They are sister policies of one another. So they said, literally, the Students for Fair Admission course in front of the Supreme Court that was ruled unconstitutional, by the way, is affirmative action constitutional? And found out, no, actually it's not constitutional to preference one racial group over another when another racial group is as qualified, if not more qualified, just because you want everyone to look different. I don't care if college looks different. I care about if you have a competency, if you have excellence, and if you have merit. I care if you are qualified, not whether or not you are black, white, Asian, Mexican. I want the best, not the most colorful.
Okay, but if you realize, if you get rid of the protections that were protecting those people previously,
such as,
you're going to allow people that are not merit-based to get in.
I'm not trying to get rid of the 14th Amendment.
You're trying to get rid of DEI.
Well, no, first of all, DEI is not a law. DEI, actually, affirmative action was. DEI is the forceful implementation of racial standarding practices and racial quotas. DEI is basically saying we are going to build a college and organization based on hyper-racialization, not on the pursuit of excellence. At the University of California, in order to get a job at the University of California, you had to submit a diversity statement as the first thing that they would look at, and 75% of white applicants were immediately dismissed upon the review of their diversity statement. That is DEI in practice. That is affirmative action in practice. And can't we both agree we want a colorblind society, not a race-obsessed society? Can't we agree to that?
If you allow all of society to be colorblind and if you're throwing away all these years of just constant turmoil towards other races, you're going to go towards...
Wait, so you don't want colorblind?
What do you mean?
Do you want colorblind? Do you want us to get closer to a society where we care about character, not skin color? Don't you believe that the content of character should matter more than skin color?
I believe that you should not be getting rid of protections that are ensuring
like what?
That
tell me what you are talking.
You're quite literally getting rid of
DEI is not a protection. DEI is an elevation. It's a different thing. DEI is not a protection against discrimination. DEI is an elevation, which is discrimination. DEI is that I'm going to take this group of people and promote them not based on anything they've earned. DEI stands for didn't earn it, just so you know. And we're going to elevate them to a place in a position of authority or power and circumstance just because they have a different pigmentation. We think that is immoral and wrong and everything against what we believe in as Americans. Everything.
Just for context, I'm open to learning and being informed, but I do believe we have a disagreement when it comes to DEI. You think it stands for didn't earn it. Essentially that colleges are dropping the bar, but I think they're just opening the door. So for example, a recent Harvard analysis by Top Economics found that students from the wealthiest 1% of families are 13 times more likely to score in the 1300 plus range for the SAT than students from the poorest families. And I don't think that's because rich kids are 13 times smarter, but it's because they have access to better schools, private tutors, test prep, everything, right? And according to the University of California, they show that family background accounts for 40% of the variance in SAT/ACT scores among UC applicants. I would also like to mention that the Diversity in Society's Leaders, the Casual Effects of Admissions at Highly Selective Private Colleges, a study shown by the National Bureau of Economic Research, that I think that if you think it's based on race, at times I think it's based on wealth. So legacy applicants, children of donors, and recruited athletes were significantly more likely to be admitted than other students with the same academic credentials. So yeah, elite schools like Harvard, legacy students are about 5 to 6 times more likely to be admitted than non-legacy students with similar SAT scores. Roughly 43% of white students admitted to Harvard from 2000 to 2015 fell into one of the 4 categories, right? Legacy, athletes, deans interestless, or children of faculty or staff. 3/4 of these ALDC admits, 75%, would not have been admitted if evaluated only on academic credentials. My question is, I guess, do you believe that DEI could possibly not stand for diversity, equity, didn't earn it, but can stand for actual diversity, that diversity of abilities? When you go into a job or to a school, they don't just ask for your SAT score. They ask what kind of clubs you were into. They ask you to submit an essay. They are a holistic academic review. So why do you think it didn't earn it? If maybe they got a less SAT score, but them as a person are just more well-rounded than the person who had all these tutors but did nothing outside of it.
What yeah. Tell me about, do you know anything about the Students for Fair Admission case, the Supreme Court case at Harvard?
I would love to hear about it.
Yeah. So basically at Harvard, Asian and white students, they basically got 200 to 400 points knocked off of their score versus black and Hispanic students. So it was disenfranchising white and Asian students. So if you support DEI, let's say you're in charge. Do you think that we should have all test scores be weighed the same? Or do you think that certain ethnic groups should get certain points because of their race?
I believe that we should acknowledge the fact that certain students have a different starting point, and I would love to give everybody the opportunity to
So how many points should a black student get over a white student in admissions?
I think that SAT scores and points shouldn't be the only thing referenced.
But you have to answer the question, because the status quo...
But it's not that black and white.
It is. So it is, because that's why affirmative action was struck down by the Supreme Court.
But we're not talking about affirmative action. We're talking about DEI.
DEI is an outgrowth. Affirmative action is an outgrowth of DEI and vice versa. But let me give you another example of DEI. Do you think, if I say to a group, let's say of Hispanic and black people, if I say you people, is that a microaggression?
Say that again. I'm so sorry.
If I was talking to a group of Hispanic or black people and I happen to say you people, is that a microaggression?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, I think that's insane.
Why?
Because it's not a microaggression or racism to call any group of people you people. That's DEI in practice. So you guys might know about the group of clowns in the circus group of the Dean on F America thing. They fell apart in 1 week because one black woman called Dean and Parker racist because they were associated with a woman who called a group of black women you people, and they said you did not recognize microaggression. That's DEI in practice, where you could lose your entire job and your career for one misstatement. And you just showed it to me. Like, you think that's a microaggression to say you people to a group of Hispanic and black people? We should not be policing the speech of people. Instead, we should be caring about one thing, and that's merit and merit only when we put together our institutions.
But if you base it on meritocracy, like I said, you're initially bringing in wealthy people who have these tutors but aren't well-rounded.
So what? That doesn't mean anything. Yes, the degree of how good your parents are matter. Yes. If you have good parents, you get something that people with bad parents don't get. That's
Okay,
applicable beyond college.
But with the people who score higher, let's say they didn't do anything, they are less likely to be able to take on challenges than the people who... Why wouldn't it matter?
Because
Wouldn't, as an
inherently
employer,
you are penalizing those with good parents. The only way you can make this work.
you're not penalizing
Yes, you are.
them. No, you're not excluding them.
Not true. It is the only way we see this. In order to elevate equity, you must compromise excellence. And that's fine if that's your position, because there's only so many spots, there's only so many places, and if you have a lot of qualified people and you want to try to get not as qualified people, you have to prevent the qualified people and elevate the unqualified people. That's what the Students for Fair Admissions case showed us.
You're thinking that DEI is versus excellence. I think DEI is for excellence.
Got it.
If
Show
you
me
look-
one institution that got better the more it embraced DEI.
One institution that got better that embraced DEI.
That got smarter, more competitive, leaner, more productive, and that was better than it was 10 years ago. Are our airports more efficient? Are we landing planes better? Are our airlines better? Is our government better? Is our schools better? Is our universities better? Show me one example. Is our public health authorities better? Show me one institution that's embraced DEI that has become better, more excellent than it was 20 years ago. It doesn't exist. DEI will destroy an institution from within.
Let me ask you another question. When COVID happened, they removed the SAT scores, yet the graduation rates for Harvard were still the same. Do you think that because of, with that being said, since ACT wasn't even considered, schools are accepting people with the potential to succeed? Because once you get in, you're still going off the same merit as everybody else.
A lot of people drop out that are, the problem with Harvard is that they now have professors, the ton of them that are saying they have to retake courses and remedial courses because these kids should never be here in the first place. And they happen to be a lot of black and Hispanic kids that were let in strictly because of the color of their skin. So I guess my question is, do you care about the racial makeup of a college?
The racial makeup of a college?
Like if a college was all white or all Asian, would that bother you?
I think it would stop them from being able to see different perspectives and thus improve their systems and improve the quality of their operations.
But why is diversity only skin color? Can't a bunch of white people also disagree?
Well, think of it this way. If I like my mom went to the hospital or something, and let's say her English is good, but her Spanish isn't. Oh, her Spanish is good, but the English not so much, right? It would help that if a person who is Hispanic or no Spanish would be the one helping her. She'd feel more comfortable with that person because she understands and relates.
Okay. You're in America. You should learn English. I don't know what to tell you, but.
No, she is.
Good. I'm not trying to be insensitive or cruel.
English, but
yeah,
she would rather be with a Hispanic nurse versus one that doesn't, so she could speak comfortably.
As an organization, you must prioritize something. We think that excellence should be, we must have an uncompromising pursuit and commitment to excellence and not equity. And we believe the more that we embrace this kind of culture of mediocrity, excellence will slip. And again, I could go through, at the core, DEI wants a lot of things, including racial quotas. Mm-hmm. We don't believe in racial quotas. Our best institutions would fall apart with racial quotas. Mm-hmm. We want excellence quotas and the best and the ones that earned it to be able to get in those positions. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your good faith conversation.
My name's Layla, and I've recently watched 3 videos of yours, Best Top 10 Charlie Kirk Debate Moments of 2024,
Oh, no.
Students Enraged that I Say College is a Scam, and 10 Unforgettable Charlie Kirk Debates that shook 2024. And I picked 3 different topics that I think are important to me, which comes down to immigration, affirmative action, and DEI, and college is a scam. But the one I want to talk to you about the most is affirmative action and DEI. And in these videos, you have said, quote for quote, white males have high test scores, white males shouldn't have to be penalized. You did acknowledge and say that people of color come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that do not prioritize education much. But instead of making a suggestion on how to help those communities and continue to build those communities up, you continue to say that our institutions are becoming less excellent. And I'm confused as to what your definition of excellence is. Is that because white males aren't necessarily, in your opinion, getting accepted as in a higher rate, even though they technically are, because 41% of college admitted students are of the white race?
It should be higher than that, yeah.
Based on what? Where are you getting the statistics? I just want to understand.
It's a good question. The Supreme Court did a whole case on this, and it ruled against affirmative action, and we saw the books of Harvard. So
I don't want to cut you off. May I know for future reference so I can understand where you're coming from and get more context, could I know the Supreme Court case?
Yeah, so the name, 2.5 years ago. I think it was something out of California. Someone look it up. You could use Grok or ChatGPT.
If somebody could please look that up for me. Thank you.
So we saw the data out of Harvard. Harvard was the test case, and effectively, approximating, but a white male had to get about a 30% higher test score to even be considered than an equivalent black student.
And when was this?
Over 30 years. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So basically, for a black student, they could do 30% worse on their standardized scores than an equivalent white student.
And you don't think that has any outside factors to do with it?
Well, that's not the point. The point is whether or not.
But how is that not the point?
Because I don't believe we should accommodate based on outside factors. You do.
Well, I do because I believe in progression. And I feel like you have stated in multiple of your videos, which I do have a quote.
No, fair enough. I'm just making sure we understand we disagree.
For sure.
I don't think we should change the rules of the game to accommodate.
What were the rules of the game?
Well, the rules of the game are that you should be treated fairly and equally, right?
For sure.
That's an American principle.
And I agree with that completely.
Got it. So, therefore, a white male should not be treated differently than a black male.
But when you come from a different...
Doesn't matter.
But the
equal treatment or not. It's not whether or not you were said mean things when you grew up or whether your dad was a gangbanger. Doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not saying that's not the outside factors I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter what the outside factors are.
But can I explain where I'm coming from?
But understand, I'm going to finish and I'll let you talk.
Okay, of
Equal
course.
treatment is regardless of any sort of sob story you could put on before it. Equal treatment. Test score, test score.
And I completely agree with that. But I also come from a predominantly white town, so I understand what you're trying to say. In my district, we have so much funding, and I live in the Florida Keys, so there's a lot of funding that comes to my school. And you can drive 30 miles north, and you end up in Homestead, where they have a fraction of the funding that we have, and they don't have as much of the same testing instructors and people to help them, and have as much of the same outside resources. And then you can keep going another 30 miles, and you end up in Miami, where all the private schools are, and they get even more funding than where I come from. Obviously I ended up where I am today because I continue to push through, and I didn't let any outside factors affect me. But at the end of the day, I kept going, and some people don't have that same ability, and I also can.
It doesn't. Again, first of all, in Florida, every public school gets the same amount of money. Okay, there's an equal funding across the board.
But you also get donations from the people in your community.
Fair enough, but Florida has.
And I know for a fact that my community gets many donations.
Florida has the most. You could use equitable funding structure of any school, and has universal school choice, basically. So that's number one. Number two, explain to me why, when we're admitting people for a job, should it just be what's on that piece of paper, or should race play into the factor?
So I know that your argument is mediocrity. I forgot. I don't really.
Mediocrity?
Okay, yeah, and I know that, and I also believe in quotas as well, but I don't think that it should be one and one, but they should go hand in hand. Because at the end of the day, if I have just as good as a resume as somebody next to me, I wanna understand where you're getting that jobs are just taking people because they're a woman, because they are black. I just want to see. And I understand what you're trying to say because of course, with affirmative action and DEI, that does give them an upper hand. But where does it say that you take somebody just because of that color?
All over the place. Capitol Street Partners back in the summer of 2022 said that they will not hire white men for internships. That's one example of thousands I could give.
But because of how many people are in there, how many people in position?
No, because they wanted to be. Again, that's irrelevant. It does not matter if you have an internship and everyone is a white man. If they're all qualified, that's great. It doesn't matter if they're all Asian or all black. It should be what merit qualification gets the people into that position.
And of course, but if this school only wanted white people to attend.
No, good, excellent qualified people. And if they end up majority white, who cares? Why does that matter?
I don't think that matters. I'm saying that affirmative action.
No, you are saying it matters.
I'm saying that, but I'm not saying for the white male or the black race or the Asian race or the Indian race, or understand what I'm saying? I'm saying that it works in favor for any race and any sex. It works, and it does 1,000%. And I don't understand where you're getting that information.
It is anti-white racism that was in the fiber of our laws that is now getting away thanks to President Donald Trump. Where if you were a white man, especially to apply for internships, jobs, going to college, that it was significantly harder to get those jobs, to get into those practices, because there were quotas that made it easier for people of other skin colors with lower standards to be able to get those positions. We agree there's only so many slots in a college. right? There's only so many positions in an internship. It's a limited supply.
I completely agree.
It is scarcity. So when you have a scarce resource, you have to decide how you're going to divvy up that scarce resource.
For sure.
In a DEI model, they're going to say, okay, we're not going to do any more than 30% white, and then we'll do 15%. And so you kind of come up with these quotas. Therefore, they end up saying, well, what happens if the 15% black is not qualified? They don't care, which ends up happening far too often. Or what happens if the
Can you give me examples of cases?
Yeah, air traffic control is actually a really good example. We now have all the documents that show that we went on a hiring spree to have more black air traffic controllers. There's a huge lawsuit about this, 15, 16, 17, where the standards for air traffic control have dropped so dramatically, and you're kind of seeing some of the effects of that potentially. And again, it's in almost every single corporate practice, every single college institution. But it just kind of comes down to more of a moral argument that I have, which is that if you have something based on merit, I don't care if it's all black, all Asian, all white. It's an excellent group is what I want, not a diverse group. I care about excellence, not diversity. Because I do not believe diversity is a strength. I believe unity is a strength. I believe the pursuit of higher purposes is a strength. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do understand where you're coming from. I feel like I do agree with some of the things that you did just say, and I may have to do some more research on the things that you said before, but I guess we can agree to disagree for the time being. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.